Imagine that every blockbuster movie that came out every year was directed by Michael Bay. They all covered the same themes, had the same art direction, and most importantly, had lots and lots of Bayhem. That's kind of similar to what the gaming industry has been like for the last decade or so. Endless sci-fi shooters. Now don't get me wrong, not all these games are bad. Heck, the Halo series has created some of my favorite gaming memories of all time, but it does get repetitive. But thanks to the rise of digital downloading, a market that has always existed for unique games with smaller budgets can now be properly served. I hope to review a few of these games here on this channel every now and then. Let's start with the last game I played, Night in the Woods. Night in the Woods is a single-player adventure platformer game for PC, Mac, and PlayStation 4. It was developed by Infinite Fall, and after being funded by a very successful Kickstarter campaign, released this spring. From the name and the ominous title screen, you might be expecting something akin to Stranger Things or a horror story, so I'm going to get this out of the way up front. If that's what you're expecting, you're going to be disappointed. You play as Mae Borowski, a 20-year-old cat. Although, is she really a cat? No one in this game acknowledges how the whole town's filled with different animals living together. No one ever says things like, "Oh, look at what I got in my paw," or "Ow, you stepped on my tail," or "You're a fox, and I'm a bear. How can we possibly be together?" And
what the crap is a cat doing here when you're a cat? And why is there a cat? I don't understand.
Anyways, Mae is a 20-year-old person who just dropped out of college and is moving back home to Possum Springs, a mining town that's slowly dying. It's unknown why Mae has dropped out of college. She doesn't want to talk about it, but she has to figure out what she's going to be doing with her life now that she has no school and no job in a dead-end town. Most of the game consists of Mae wandering Possum Springs day to day and chatting with the inhabitants. It can get repetitive and slow, but frankly, it's a kind of accurate look at what the life of someone with no direction can be like. And it can also be pretty rewarding to see the town slowly change each day and discovering the secrets of Possum Springs. You'll chat with various residents of the town like the local pastor, an aspiring poet, your high school science teacher, a homeless guy, and so on. But the crux of the game focuses on reconnecting and hanging out with your old friends. In fact, the biggest decisions you'll make in the game are basically who you're going to hang out with on any given day. Hanging out usually involves one of the game's simple yet varied mini-games. There's Bee, a smoking crocodile trying to run her parents' business, and under a lot of stress. Hanging out with her typically involves Mae trying, and usually failing, to be more like an adult, and a lot of her hangouts are more puzzle-based, like trying to cook an edible meal for her family. Then there's Greg, the fox who works at the Snack Falcon. Greg is excitable. He likes to commit crimes around town and be an overall delinquent. He encourages Mae's more irresponsible tendencies. Or does Mae encourage his? His mini-games are usually more skill-based, like having a straight-up knife fight. Also, a side note, Greg is the only character to have a canonized voice, according to the developers.
Kate is nasty. She's filthy, underwear on the counter, never fed the cat. The cat died, it was a mercy killing because Kate never fed that cat. I didn't kill the cat, John didn't kill the cat, none of us did, because we only smash stuff outside.
He's an artist.
There's other characters you can hang out with as well, like Lori, Germ, and Greg's boyfriend Angus. Although you don't get the opportunity to hang out with them very often, and when you do, it's usually a lot smaller and doesn't end the day the way hanging out with Greg or Bee does. Mae, Greg, Bee, and Angus do form a band, and can we talk about the music in this game? No? Not yet? Okay. Here's the interesting thing. When you don't hang out with someone, they continue to live their life without you. I know that sounds obvious, but if Greg wants to assemble a robot and you aren't there to help him, he'll do it without you. So seeing everything in the game requires multiple playthroughs. There's this interesting dynamic where Bee is encouraging Mae to grow up while Greg is encouraging her to party, and the people that surround Mae are absolutely affecting who she's becoming, and what she becomes kind of depends a lot on you. There's a bit of platforming in this game, but it's never really challenging. It's impossible to really lose the game, though characters will acknowledge how you're failing at life. I mean, your character's already failing at life, but your friends will rub it in your face when you're doing really bad. Like when I'm in the band. Is it time to talk about the music yet? The true strength of this game really comes from the characters and the writing. You begin to develop close relationships with each character, and conversations with them can quickly get pretty real. Topics like abuse, mental health, and queerness come up, and the dialogue around them can get pretty heartbreaking. Fights sometimes break out with your friends and family and leave you with an emotional punch in the gut. Admittedly, the characters are written a little bit too much like each other. It seems everyone in Possum Springs has the same sense of witty, sarcastic humor. Also, I guess I should mention some Lovecraftian, supernatural, existential horror stuff starts coming up about halfway through the game, but I ultimately found the resolution to that story more disappointing and less engaging than the much smaller, more intimate themes of growing up during that weird transition where you're not quite an adult, but you're also no longer a kid. This is reflected brilliantly in the band minigame. And yes, it's finally time to talk about the music. Outside of having a great ambient soundtrack, Night in the Woods has some pretty catchy original songs that the band plays. And here's the thing, every song has lyrics, and those lyrics reflect the real-life experiences of the main group of friends. But since there's no dialogue in the game, Infinite Fall left the door open for dozens and dozens of cover artists to sing the lyrics for them. Let's check out a couple of covers right now.
I just wanna die anywhere else.
From me I could die anywhere else.
So come with me, let's die anywhere else. Anywhere, just not here.
And that leads to something pretty brilliant within the game. For its repetitive gameplay and somewhat disappointing resolution, Night in the Woods sticks with you. It's a little brain worm that gets stuck in your head and forces you to remember its adorably rendered and animated characters. It encourages fans to create webcomics, fan art, music covers. The Night in the Woods Twitter account has been great at sharing these fan creations.
Please notice me, senpai, I made this for you.
So, if you're looking for a more narrative-focused, slow burn experience, maybe give Night in the Woods a try. Also,
Greg rules, okay?